This infamous statement led to the banning of the prince and painted Niccolò Machiavelli as one of the most morally bankrupt and ruthless figures in history. In 1539, Reginald Pole even declared, "Niccolò Machiavelli is the enemy of the human race." Machiavelli advised rulers not to focus on what is morally right, but on what is practical and effective. He advocated pursuing evil when necessary to achieve their objectives, and disregarding all ethical considerations in the pursuit of power. Whether this involved the massacre of entire families, including children, or deceit and manipulation to protect the state, no method was off the table if it served the ruler's purpose. Beneath this dark, almost satanic philosophy, however, lies an uncomfortable truth about human nature. Machiavelli exposed the often brutal realities of power and success, and his teachings, while harsh, offer insights that can be applied in various areas of life to achieve success. Niccolò Machiavelli was born on May 3, 1469, in Florence, Italy, a time of great political instability and violence. Italy was not a unified country, but a patchwork of city-states like Florence, Venice, Milan, Naples, and the Papal States, each vying for power. These city-states were frequently at war with each other, and foreign powers like France and Spain, which sought to dominate Italian territories. In Florence, violence was an integral part of political life. The Medici family, who had ruled the city, was expelled in 1494, leading to a brief and unstable republican government. Machiavelli witnessed firsthand the intense factionalism between powerful families and the mercenary armies that could be bought and sold, further fueling the chaos. In 1498, Machiavelli's political career began to take shape shortly after the execution of Savonarola, the Dominican friar who briefly ruled Florence. On May 24th, Savonarola was hanged as a heretic and his body burned in the public square. A few days later, at the age of 29, Machiavelli emerged from obscurity and became the head of the Second Chancery, a position that put him in charge of Florence's foreign affairs in subject territories. He was influenced by Savonarola's leadership style and even referenced him in The Prince. The broader context of Machiavelli's life was shaped by the Italian Wars, where France and Spain battled for control over Italian territories. These wars brought widespread devastation, economic hardship, and political upheaval, leaving a deep impression on Machiavelli's understanding of power and governance. In 1512, the Republic of Florence fell once again to the Medici family, and Machiavelli was accused of conspiracy against them. As a result, he was tortured and exiled from Florence. This lifetime of witnessing political chaos, frequent overthrows of rulers, and the brutal realities of war led Machiavelli to write his most famous works, The Prince and Discourses on Livy, around 1513. Interestingly, The Prince was originally written as a gift to Lorenzo de' Medici in the hope of regaining favor with the powerful Medici family after Machiavelli's political downfall. Though often associated with ruthless pragmatism and political cunning, The Prince also explores themes such as leadership, the role of fortune, the necessity of adaptability, and human nature, which Machiavelli believed must be understood by anyone in power. His primary goal was to protect the state through power that surpassed all rivals. How? That's what we'll be discussing now. For this can be said of men in general, that they are ungrateful, fickle, hypocrites and dissemblers, avoiders of dangers, greedy for gain. And while you benefit them, they are entirely yours, offering you their blood, their goods, their life, their children, when need is far away, but when you actually become needy, they turn away. Machiavelli's seemingly cruel methods for achieving and maintaining power were deeply rooted in his understanding of human nature. He saw humanity not through the lens of morality, but through a lens of realism. He believed that people were inherently selfish, hypocritical, and driven by greed, and therefore should not be treated with moral ideals, but rather in ways that serve one's own interest. His disillusionment with human nature was partly shaped by the prominent figures of his time, like Pope Alexander VI, Pope Alexander VI, born Rodrigo Borgia in 1431, epitomized hypocrisy during his papacy from 1492 to 1503. He was notorious for prioritizing his family's ambitions over his spiritual responsibilities. His papacy was marked by ruthless political strategies, expanding the power of the papal states through deception and nepotism, favoring his children, Cesare and Lucrezia. He even used excommunication as a weapon to serve his personal and political interests. Witnessing this kind of behavior from the highest moral authority of the time reinforced Machiavelli's view that morality and politics were often incompatible. Machiavelli came to the conclusion that if human nature is as duplicitous and self-serving as he observed, one must always assume that others are plotting against you. Trust no one, and you'll never be blindsided. There's a random saying I found online that fits here. If people throw stones at you, throw bread instead, with a grenade inside, of course. For Machiavelli, success depended on adopting a pessimistic view of people. By expecting the worst in others, you protect yourself from disappointment and betrayal. In his mind, power was not maintained by kindness or trust, but by understanding and exploiting the darker aspects of human nature. If people are as cruel and unpredictable as Machiavelli believed, how does a ruler control them? This brings us to our next chapter, the fear over love. And here comes the question of whether it is better to be loved rather than feared, or feared rather than loved. It might perhaps be answered that we should wish to be both, but since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved. For Machiavelli, love was fleeting and unreliable. He believed that people would abandon their ruler as soon as their own needs were met. Love, in his view, is temporary. It can be lost when the tide of fortune changes. However, fear is a much stronger and enduring force. Fear, once instilled, remains in people's hearts and compels loyalty even in difficult times. To achieve this lasting sense of control, Machiavelli argued that a ruler must resort to severe punishments when necessary to preserve the security of the state. Machiavelli cites historical examples to support his argument, notably Cesare Borgia. Though ruthless, Borgia unified and stabilized the Romagna region through fear and respect. His brutal but decisive methods prevented rebellion and secured his power. In Machiavelli's analysis, fear is a powerful political tool that can achieve long-term objectives and ensure stability. While these methods appear harsh, Machiavelli was driven by one primary concern: the safety and security of the state. He believed that a ruler's harsh measures were justified if they served the greater goal of protecting the state from harm. People should either be caressed or crushed. If you do them minor damage, they will get their revenge, but if you cripple them, there is nothing they can do. If you need to injure someone, do it in such a way that you do not have to fear their vengeance. This is one of Machiavelli's most controversial ideas, and the one that led to the prince being banned for centuries. Machiavelli had witnessed his homeland ruled by a series of greedy and ineffective leaders, all of whom were overthrown because they couldn't hold on to power. He concluded that, to secure the state, a ruler must sometimes act in ways that go beyond moral codes. The ruler must be willing to do whatever is necessary, whether it involves deception, cruelty, or violence, to maintain control and protect the state from external and internal threats. One of his first pieces of advice was to surround oneself with competent and loyal men. As he said, the first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. Machiavelli believed that while virtuous men were rare, finding them and keeping them close was essential for the success of the state. However, he also argued that, in certain situations, drastic measures were required. A ruler must ensure that any harm done to potential enemies is so severe that they will never be able to retaliate. Machiavelli's political philosophy was radical, because he separated politics from theology and government from religion. While he respected religion for the social order it provided, he was firmly against allowing religious morality to influence government decisions. This rejection of the traditional idea that rulers must govern according to moral and religious laws, particularly those of Aquinas, was another reason why the prince was so controversial. For Machiavelli, the state was sacred, and the ruler's duty was to protect it at all costs, even if that meant abandoning traditional notions of morality. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. In this metaphor, Machiavelli advises rulers to embody the qualities of both a fox and a lion. The fox represents intelligence, cunning, and adaptability, traits that help a leader recognize hidden dangers and navigate complex situations. Being like a fox means understanding when deception or manipulation is necessary to avoid traps, which often appear in the political landscape. On the other hand, the lion symbolizes power, strength, and the ability to assert authority, to maintain control and prevent challenges to their rule. A leader must show force when necessary, commanding respect, and instilling fear in potential adversaries. The lion's strength ensures that once threats are identified, they can be dealt with decisively. Machiavelli was pragmatic in his approach, believing that not all problems could be solved through direct confrontation. If a ruler can deceive to win rather than fight, that is the preferable route. He understood that many people are driven by their immediate needs and desires, making them vulnerable to manipulation. People are often swayed by what seems beneficial at the moment, even if it comes from a deceitful source. Machiavelli recognized that cunning leaders could exploit this simplicity to achieve their goals. This view underscores Machiavelli's understanding of human psychology. People want to believe what is convenient for them, and an effective ruler must recognize and use this to their advantage. However, deception and manipulation require a fine balance. The ruler must be smart enough to avoid being trapped by their own cunning or the schemes of others. Machiavelli believed that virtuous leaders, while noble, would struggle to succeed in the harsh realities of political life. He advocated for pragmatism and adaptability, arguing that a ruler must be willing to set aside moral codes when necessary. To maintain power, one must be willing to act boldly, take risks, and even make morally questionable decisions. In Machiavelli's view, politics is dirty, and a good person constrained by moral values will be easily overthrown by someone who is willing to do whatever it takes to maintain power. Therefore, he was skeptical of virtuous leaders who relied on ethical principles, believing that they would fail to take the extreme measures needed to secure the stability of the state. This philosophy aligns with Friedrich Nietzsche's idea of the Übermensch, an individual who creates their own values and is not bound by conventional morality. Machiavelli similarly argued that a ruler must be self-sufficient, with their primary loyalty being to the state. If a leader allows morality to constrain their actions, they may lose the power needed to protect their people and territory. While Machiavelli's ideas are pragmatic and offer valuable insights into human nature and political survival, they come at a cost. His emphasis on ruling through fear, manipulation, and brute force neglects the rights and well-being of individuals. Machiavelli's work is centered on the preservation of the state, often at the expense of the people within it. His dismissal of morality in politics creates a dangerous precedent where the end justifies the means, leading to chaos and instability in the long run. Ruling without a sense of justice or humanity can result in a disconnected leadership that alienates and oppresses the people. Machiavelli also underestimates the importance of religion, which has historically played a crucial role in shaping societies and guiding rulers. In summary, while Machiavelli's strategies might work in specific situations, his rejection of moral principles and human rights can lead to a cold and ruthless form of governance. Absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, and add what is specifically your own.